You ever have so many headlamps that you think, we should have a rave with these things? What's going on, hikers? In today's video, we are reviewing the Claymore Heady Rechargeable Headlamp. If you're new to the channel, my name is Jeremiah Stringer, and here we talk about all things hiking and backpacking. So if you're into that kind of thing, consider subscribing to the channel. Now, full disclosure, this headlamp, I received it for free, but this video is not sponsored whatsoever. In exchange to sending me this headlamp, the company asked me for an unbiased, honest opinion on it. And I said, you know what? I'll make a video on that after I used it. Now, the video is going to go like this. First, I'm going to tell you my experience with the headlamp. Then I'm going to tell you how to use it, kind of what the buttons do and that kind of stuff. I'm also going to tell you the cons. And then I'm going to tell you the pros and things that I like about the headlamp. And we'll wrap up the video at the end and talk about what suggestions would I make that would improve this headlamp. In the description of this video, I will link to this headlamp. So if you want to read more about it or look at the specs on it, be my guest. It's not an affiliate link. So if you click through that and you buy this headlamp, I don't get any commission or money from it. So no pressure, but it will be there if you want to check it out. Also in the description, I will timestamp this video, which means if you just want to see the pros and cons, click those numbers in the description. That'll take you to the point of the video where I talk about that specific thing. So let's get started with what are my experiences with this headlamp. I want to tell you about one in particular. So I went to this subscriber meetup / hammock forum hang up in Michigan not too long ago. And I'm going to be honest. I waited till the last second to buy my food. We literally bought it on the way, and I live in Kentucky. So we almost get to the campground where we're going. And I'm like, hey guys, I need to stop and buy some food for me and my wife Bridget. And we do, and that pretty much makes us late, and we have to set up in the dark. Now the worst part is it's pouring the rain, so we're at a campground. The only light I have is headlamps. So what I did was I actually used, there's threads on the bottom here, and you can put this thing on a tripod. And I use a tripod to film on. So the threads are the same, and I put it on the tripod, and this lit up exactly what I needed, and I got to set up my entire camp just from the light of this headlamp. So that was super cool. Now let's talk about how do we use this headlamp. If you look at the top, you'll see three things. You'll see a battery meter, which is actually one of my favorite things about this headlamp. You'll also see that there's a power button, and you'll see that there is a light change mode button. And the power button obviously turns the power on. The battery meter tells you how charged the battery is. And lastly, you can change between 6 different light modes, which is really awesome. And then the power button does more than just turn the power on. Also what it does is if you have the light on any particular mode, you can hold the power button and it'll make it brighter or dimmer. There's a couple other things that these buttons do for you. There's an SOS mode. So if you want to turn that on, you'll turn on the power and then you'll hold the light change button for 5 seconds. And then it'll start flashing in Morse code, SOS. Another feature is there's a lock. So say that you don't want this light, the battery's dying while it's in your backpack. What you can do is turn on the lock feature. That's by holding the power button for 5 seconds. And then this light will not turn on unless you hold the power button for 5 seconds whenever you're ready to use it. The last little tidbit of information that I'd like to share with you about this headlamp is its IP rating. Without getting too technical, IP measures how weather resistant pretty much that your headlamp is. So this is a standard rating. It's a 2-digit number. The 5 stands for how much dust is going to get in there. And 5 is a pretty good rating. There's not much dust or crumbs or whatever you want to call it that's going to penetrate the case on this particular headlamp. And then the 4, what that's going to measure is how water resistant. And this headlamp at a rating of 4 is rated to, withstand water from all directions. Now, I would not suggest submerging this headlamp. Don't take it swimming, right? Use a little bit of common sense whenever you have it. But it sat out for an hour on that tripod in the rain while I was setting up camp. And I had absolutely no issue with it, and it still works today. And now the fun part. What exactly do I think about this headlamp? What's my opinion on it? Now keep in mind, it's just one man's opinion. But here's my thoughts. Let's start with the cons. I have 4. Con number 1. If you compare this headlamp to some of the other headlamps on the market, for instance, maybe a Petzl Bindi or maybe a Nightcore NU25, which I have a lot of experience with, you can see that this headlamp takes up quite a bit more volume. And to me, that's kind of a big deal for my purposes because I'm a backpacker. So we want compact and we want light, which actually makes me excited because I'm talking to the company about sending me the smaller version of this headlamp, which comes with its own set of good and bad. They may be sending that to me, and hopefully we can do a review on that in the future and kind of compare these two. Let's talk about con number 2. Now, what comes with the territory of a larger headlamp? Yeah, you do get some great things like battery life, which I'm going to talk about here in a minute, but one of the cons is it's just heavier. And how heavy exactly? This headlamp in particular weighs 103 grams without the head strap on it, and with the head strap it's 129 grams. Let's talk about con number 3. Another thing that I don't particularly love about this headlamp is that there's no red light on it. Now, I've walked up and accidentally blinded some people before, and it's because I didn't have my red light on at night. I do like using a red light around camp sometimes, or especially if I'm in my tent. I feel like I don't bring as many bugs into the tent with me, whenever it's warm out, and it helps preserve my night vision. Now, this headlamp in particular does have a warmer, dimmer light all the way down to 1 lumen, which we'll talk about in just a second. Con number 4. I may be missing something here, but to me, the clip design, because this headlamp does come with an additional attachment, a clip, instead of the headband, it doesn't really make sense to me. Like, it would be great if you're putting it on a belt or a strap or something, but if you want to wear it on a cap, which I often wear a cap in the backcountry, it's backward. Now, it could be the fact that, the headlamp, it's adjustable, but it doesn't adjust up enough so that a hat would be viable, or maybe you had to wear it upside down. But the clip, I'm a little bit confused by it. I'm glad we got that out of the way because I'm just not a negative guy. You guys probably know I like bringing the positivity. So let's talk about the pros. I'll try to go fast here because there's actually 9 of them. Let's start with pro number 1. What do I like about this headlamp? Let me tell you, my wife and I, we use this thing in the tent set on 1 lumen and let it burn all night on a warm light setting. And your battery life is going to be different depending on which features you're using and how long it's burning for, of course. So I can't give you an exact number of hours that it's going to work for you, but we burned it all night and it still had 100% battery reading. And then we burned it a second night and there was only 1 battery bar gone. That's the entire night. Like literally from the time we went to sleep to the next day waking up like 9 a.m. because I like to sleep in. By the way, those battery bars, the 3, they each represent 33%. So once the first one's gone, you got 66% battery left. Once the second one's gone, you got 33% battery left. And then of course, once the third one's gone, the battery's dead. Pro number 2, this is a big deal for me. I use a lot of power out on trail because I do filming. So having something that I can recharge versus having to take additional batteries, that's a good thing. So pro number 2 is that this headlamp is rechargeable. Pro number 3, I already talked a little bit about it, but there is a battery meter on this thing. My Nightcore NU25 has a battery meter, but you got to hold the button a special way to see it. This thing, it's on there every time you turn it on, and I love that about this headlamp. Number 4, on the pros section, this thing can go super bright, 600 lumens. Do you know how bright that is? That's bright enough to burn my eyes. Well, not really, but that is super bright. You're not going to want to look directly into that. It will light up your world. Number 5 on the pro section of this video. Another thing I absolutely love about this headlamp is how easy it is to change the light settings. And what that means is you can change the dimness or brightness on every single light setting there is. All 6 of them, whether you're using warm light or whether you're using as bright as it can go LED light. All you do is hold that power button and voila, it gets brighter or dimmer. Number 6. I absolutely love the fact that this headlamp has threads on the bottom that are a standard size that's going to fit for my tripods. Because whenever I'm out in the woods and it's dark and I need to light something up to film, I can just put this headlamp on top of that tripod and hold my camera. My world's lit up. Because with no light, there's no video. Another thing, if you have the hobby of bikepacking, or maybe you just ride bicycles for fun and you want a headlight on the front of your bike, all you got to do is buy an attachment and screw this thing on top. Voila, you have yourself a headlight attached to your handlebars on your bike. Number 7, there is a body hook on this headlamp. So all you gotta do is flip the hook up. You can put it on whatever you want whenever you're out in the backcountry. Okay, I think there's actually only 8. I think I lied to you. And after I give you this 8th Pro, I'm going to tell you suggestions that I would make to this headlamp to make it better in the future. So without further ado, number 8 on the pros list, I love that you can lock this headlamp, which means that it's not going to come on in my backpack for me leaning up against a tree or sitting down or whatever's going to happen, and then be dead whenever I absolutely need it, and I'm not hiking out there. So that lock feature, I like it. Now, how can we make this headlamp better? I got a few suggestions for you. 1, you could add a red light. Now, there is a soft, warm light that it's not a red light, but it does help preserve your night vision, especially at 1 lumen. But me being a backpacker, I do like that red light. The second suggestion I would give to make this headlamp better is to flip that clip around. If you can engineer it that way and it actually makes logistical sense, flip it around so that you could put it on the bill of your hat and it wouldn't be backward. And that's just another feature that you could use with the headlamp. The third suggestion I would give is the contents of the package whenever you get the headlamp. Now the contents are the headlamp, the headband, that attaches. You also get a charging cord, which I think is just a regular micro USB. And then lastly, you get a little bag to put your headlamp in. Now personally, I don't like carrying the extra weight of that bag, so I'm not even going to use it. And if this headlamp is marketed toward backpackers, I would think, and this is just my opinion, that most of you wouldn't use it either. So if that would save at all on the cost of the headlamp, I would say get rid of the bag and then charge a little bit less for the headlamp. But that's just my opinion. Okay, and then lastly, the fourth suggestion that I would give to making this headlamp better, in my opinion, would be to, if you can at all cut any weight from it if possible, do so. I don't know if I have a sensitive head or what, but if my glasses are screwed on too tight, it gives me a headache after an hour or two. So using this headlamp, it's a little bit heavier, so I have to wear the headband pretty tight. And what happens is it kind of squeezes my head a little bit, to hold the headlamp in position, and it can give me a headache. So if there's any way to cut any grams off this thing, that would be fantastic. Even if that means using, a different headband. Folks, I hope you had as much fun as I did from making this video. If you've enjoyed it, give me one of these, subscribe to the channel, and kick the notification bell for the latest notifications. We'll see you in the next video.